that it's been effective. The negotiating tactic has worked. I think that is sort of indicative of what's going to happen in the future, and it shows just how what a powerful role Elon's going to play in the future of the next Trump presidency.
Well, yes. I mean, clearly, when anything new starts, you might see a new. I think I love high jump, for example. At the Olympic level, I love it. It's what I watch a great deal, and so I tried it once, and it's extremely difficult. And you see a newcomer, and this is a really great newcomer. Could be a man, could be a woman, but it's going to take 2 or 3 years before they actually become the front runner. You know what I mean? And you watch their progress as they go. You know what I mean? And they get to that point where everybody acknowledges them as the top person. But if you've been watching if you're particularly into that kind of sport or whatever it might be, you know how it started. So it wasn't so easy to start, and you watch the slow progress as they go. So Elon, in a way, he's now got into this, and so one is to watch his progress. He is, after all, an individual. He's also entitled to be a political person, and you watch whether he will go that way or back to tech, or what he might do in life. And as one might watch the career of a sportsman, if you know what I mean, or like a sportswoman doing high jump, and so he will. If I were to predict anything, I would say there's a very good chance that he will rise to considerable heights in America. Now, here's this thing that he wasn't born in America. His grandfather, his grandfather, his mother's father was born in Minnesota. In terms of English, sort of law and stuff. As my mother was born in England and my father, I can get a British passport, and so he should, in a way, be able to. His mother could have got an American passport through her father if it was like that in America, and then he could have got an American passport. I don't know if that qualifies him to. He wasn't born there, so this is that kind of issue. And I don't believe, in fact, I don't believe Obama was born in. There's a lot of evidence, strong evidence to show that Obama was born in Kenya, but they wanted a black or a colored president so much that they overlooked that. And fair enough, I don't mind. It's not going to break anybody's bones or anything. And so, fine, I'm not unhappy with them choosing Obama like that. So it's great. I don't see, I mean, it's the right man for the job, then you do it. I mean, why would you not? So in due course, he may be fortunate enough to stand, in 32 or 36 or something. He might be able to, they might change things a little bit for him, and he may be able to stand for that. I think he would be a very good president, but he would have to change his approach. He'd have to develop a lot more, empathy. The politicians, obviously aware of who their electorate is, are aware that it's little old so and so is a dustbin collector, and little old lady so and so is a pensioner, and little they're not all like super people who that he's being elected by. So that's something a person in government has to learn. If you elected to a political post, the people who elect you are very ordinary, very down to earth, ordinary people. That's who you're representing. You're not representing people from the super levels of high business or something like that. Yeah.
No, it's a very. Do you think Elon would like to be president if he were allowed to be?
Would he like it, or would he what?
Would he like to be president?
No, I think at this stage it's a wrong thing to even suggest that. Suggesting something like that is to somehow disable or not enable or create some situation for Trump where he's now being accused of not really being the president. Well, that's not true. Trump is a very great leader, and I can assure you that, knowing my son, he will quite definitely be very, I would say obedient, that's not the right word, but he will certainly do what Trump tells him to do. He's not the type of person who would try and, he's a team player. He's not somebody who would try and rock the boat in any way. And he would, all these rumors that he's this or that, that's just people trying to cause trouble. if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And
But sometime, I mean, what you're suggesting, Errol, that maybe sometime in the future,
yes,
if the situations were to allow it, would he be interested sometime in the future?
well, yes. I mean, if you look at my time when I worked as a consulting engineer, I worked with and property developer. I worked with some of the biggest property developers you can get, and these were people that I was often told by them I must call them by their first name. They were often 20 or more years older than me. I never did. I never ever did that. I always referred to them Mr. So and so or Mr. So and so, and I just didn't want to create a situation because at times I did take the lead in some of the business situations, and often I would not want to step in front of the people that had actually put me there in the first place, and I was always quite sure that I didn't create any sort of embarrassment for somebody who had actually put me there in the first place, was meant to be my senior. And so Elon do exactly the same. He'll never do anything to sort of put himself. He's not like that in any case. So put himself in front of Trump. He would always ask. Recently, I was asked by a company for something for Elon to do, and the Egyptian government, in fact, asked me if I could have Elon. I spoke on Egyptian television a couple of weeks ago, and it was a big show. And they asked me afterwards if I would be able to ask, if they could pose a few questions to Elon in a sort of taped version. He could just answer, and they would like to put them out, And I said, you do understand that he works for the American government now, and he has to. He would have to ask DJT. He can't just go and do that. He has to ask John Trump whether he can do that, and Trump would say yes or he'd say no. So you couldn't just go and do that when you're in that situation that he's in. He's now part of a team.
Yes.
And the captain speaks, and then you operate. Then you go. That's the way it works.
Yeah, and it's so important to do that. And people always assume, and I'm sure he gets inundated with business proposals and requests for interviews and so on and so forth. You talk about 1,000 applications for the Starlink side. He must get tens of thousands of requests every single day.
Yes, of course. But he's not garrulous. So if you get him on an interview, you're going to get a lot of, as people have quite often noted, I've seen people note that he's somewhat curt in his replies. It's either yes or no, which leaves the interviewer somewhat stranded at times, because I saw, the one interview that stands out quite a lot is the one with Don Lemon or Lemon or whatever his name is, where he actually brought cards with questions that Elon agreed to a friendly interview, which he normally wouldn't do, but he did it for this chap. I think it was generally, the idea was that this guy's going to go on to X and become a sort of anchor for X,
Yes.
And this chap came on and came up with really questions aimed at embarrassing Elon. And he came short. He came very short. And as he would ask these long questions, Elon would just answer the question by saying, no. And so, no.
I mean, it's the perfect response. And we've often spoken about this, Errol. I think it's so wrong just to try and catch people out. What I love about this is we never have to say, well, that's all the time we've got now. We'll always make sure that everything's properly represented, and there's a platform for people to put the record straight.
Yes, of course. No, Elon. Let's get real here with Elon. I mean, he's not Superman. He's not the most perfect orator. It may come. At this stage, I think a lot of the time, much like myself, especially years ago, you try to avoid saying too much for fear of saying the wrong thing, And, whereas there are other people who've just got the gift of the gab. I don't know if you've heard that expression before.
Well, of course.
And, we certainly never had the gift of the
gab. I've heard it many times, absolutely.
No, we didn't have the gift of the gab. And Kimball, my youngest son, we were, as a matter of fact, when we were in Dubai, it's rather interesting, we were invited by the Sheikh of Dubai to a luncheon. This was about 2 Fridays ago. And the luncheon was actually, I was the guest of honor. I was quite surprised because, in fact, I sat next to the president of Kuwait, in fact, and the sheikh of Abu Dhabi, you see. And there was about 200 people at the lunch. I mean, food was presented for 200 people. And by, in the palace was, made the grounds of Buckingham Palace look like a postage stamp. And anyway, so I went to this lunch, and who should walk in at the bottom of at the end, during the seating, when we were already seated. This is one of those things when the sheikh gets up, you get up. When he sits down, you sit down, and all that sort of stuff. And who should walk in at the bottom but my son Kimball, out of the blue. And he was given an invitation by one of the sheikh's, I don't know, adjutants or something. And he happened to be in Qatar. So he was in his own jet, and he came over for the lunch, which is quite near. And I was surprised out of my mind. I couldn't believe it. And I got up straight, which is not what you're supposed to do. Everybody was seated now. I just jumped up and rushed across the huge thing and said, Kimball, and I'm trying to remember why I said that. But oh yes, Kimball, he's very good with. He's got the gift of the gab.
Right.
Everybody leaves with him saying, my day is made. After I've got a new friend for life. You meet Kimball, he convinces everybody that they're a friend for life. So he's really good at that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it was a lovely surprise because obviously they kept that secret from you. You sent me a little message saying, surprise, surprise, Kimball's just turned up, which is glorious.
It was really weird. The whole lunch, the sheikh was incredibly good to me, good to us, And the two of us became a sort of, in a way, we were almost, certainly after lunch, we were like the center of attraction to all the diplomats. The people there were quite extraordinary. I mean, they were like all the top people from everywhere you could imagine, and all coming to us and offering us their cards and, and offering us dinner and lunch and visits to their country and so forth, I think I agreed without even knowing that I agreed to a visit to Delhi, to be a guest of the government in Delhi, I think I did.
Wonderful.
And but they just came at us with all these things, but the two of us had a very good time. And the real point I'm making though is Kimball is a great talker and can make people feel comfortable. Elon is quite the opposite.
I know, and as you say,
I know you're about 6 foot. I know you're about 6 foot something, 6'5" or something.
There you go.
And Elon is like 6'4" something, 6'3". Kimball's 6'5", by the way.
There you go. Well, I look forward. We'll get us all together with that sort of height thing. We could be looking forward to that.
No, I mean, bigness is important. I wish I was that. I'm 6'1". I'd love to be taller, but I'm not. And anyway, but I'd introduce you and Elon, and no doubt you'd come to me afterwards and say, Elon doesn't like me. You know what I mean? But then I'd come to you and say, I'd go to Elon and say, Andrew doesn't think you like him. And Elon would go, oh, no. Show me to Andrew, hello, Andrew, Yeah. It's just his way, Yeah.
And you said that before, and we've spoken very openly. He's spoken very openly about autism and so on and so forth.
Everybody
that's
knows
just the way that he reacts.
Yes. It's not. I think he tries, and actually, I'm a little embarrassed when he does try, because it's obvious he's trying, and then it doesn't work too well. He sort of puts on a bit too much.
Yeah. It's so important to understand where he's coming from on that sort of basis. One final thought for this episode, just as we look at America. One of the suggestions from a number of sources, Marjorie Taylor Greene suggested that Elon might be an alternative for the Speaker of the House. What's your views on that?
Yes. Look, I mean, it's a brilliant thought. Again, we come back to being Speaker of the House. Elon is a yes/no man. So he would be very, I have no doubt that he would do it very well. He's the kind of person who would stick to basic rules. There would be he wouldn't have any leeway. So that's a bit of a problem. But on the other hand, Elon is seriously not a nonsense person. Nonsense, he'd call it out immediately. And sometimes in life, you have to, sort of go along with a bit of nonsense. If you've got any wisdom to you. You have to sometimes, just let the nonsense go a little bit. Don't be too cruel on people. And Elon, unfortunately, is not like that. He'd probably say, when they brought up, say, that's nonsense. Next thing. you know, you know, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
Next
Well,
thing, you know, and
it's a good
but it's a brilliant
skill
thought.
to have, and he always sort of leaves it sort of hanging, say who he might be tempted. But I think Trump was basically saying, well, he's too busy. He's going to be too busy sending people to Mars.
You what?
I think
Trump
Trump
wants
was
to send
saying
people.
Elon's going to be too busy on other matters, including
Oh,
sending
yes,
people to
yes. No,
Mars.
no. Look, Elon's main tasks are remain. There's no falling back on the main tasks. I mean, I was of the opinion that Tesla shares, because of the innovations that they brought up in the last 3 months, I thought 3 months ago Tesla would start shooting up. And I was quite surprised that it didn't. But there were a lot of shorters. And so perhaps that had something to do with it. And I believe Bill Gates shorted himself so much on Tesla that he could lose up to $50 billion.
And the shares
So
and sales
that's
have dipped a
terrible.
little bit because of political alliances, they say in the UK and so on and so forth. But we've discussed this before, and the Tesla shares are significantly undervalued. And as you say, it could be the very exciting company.
Yes, I mean, so in any case, so Tesla has now started to show its strength, and so it probably, Elon was saying he thinks that the share will top out at about $650 a share, and so that's very important. At the moment, it's running at somewhere about $445 a share, somewhere there, and this is extraordinary growth in such a short time. The point that I'm making is that Elon hasn't got time to go and be the Speaker of the House.
Yeah,
You know, he's faced
I
with
think that's absolutely key.
nothing
Well,
that happens at Tesla that he doesn't know about, or
yeah,
SpaceX.
yeah.
He knows every employee by name.
Yeah, it's
Sort
a
of thing.
phenomenal thing. Well, Errol, always a pleasure to have you on the show. When you next come back, we're going to talk about the developments in the UK. But for now, Errol Musk, thank you very much for joining me.
Okay, thank you.